So I just got back from Halfords and bought the biggest battery the frame would allow me to go over, and even then I had to manipulate that a little bit to fit. But it's in. I couldn't get a gauge. I went to our local hydraulics place and they didn't have the adapters that I needed, and they seemed quite surprised that that's fitted to a car, but hey, such is life. So what I'm going to do is I've refitted the original pressure switch, and I'm going to have to use the gauge or the light until I can get the proper adapter from, I don't know, Demon Tweaks or somewhere like that, maybe Merlin Motorsport. But for now, obviously I want to get it running. The battery's in, it's all connected. I still have my Carlos Fandango pusher switch, so we can put that on. And for the first time I've put on the HT leads, and obviously the spark plugs are in, so we may hear it fire. May. So I'll turn on the ignition. In fact, I'll make sure the light goes out first. Put the ignition on. Just make sure I still get oil pressure. So we've got oil pressure. I will put the ignition on and give it some choke. Calibrated peg. Every 80s car needs a calibrated peg. This we've got one of two ways. We have fire extinguishers around, but we'll see. Oh, my wires come out. Mother trucker. Sounds okay, but there's no fire. We'll quickly check out this spark. I'll try that there. Find an old dodgy spark plug. I've set up the timing statically, but I don't know how far off it is. Yeah, it's all wired up. Now watch me jump. Beautiful bright spark. So that's compared to the old engine. Looking at the other engine, the Dizzy is too far advanced, so I need to retard it. I also need to get the right size spanner. Desperately need to tidy up. See what it does. interesting indeed. I'm going to fix this wire and I'll come back to you in a moment. So, I didn't want to start. We all make mistakes, is how I'm going to start this scene. When I built this engine, it was probably nearly a year ago now, but that's no excuse. When I built it, I was doing it by the book, which is just, yeah. And going through it, and it's funny, you get pulled away for all sorts of reasons. Anyway, I digress. I've rang Dave Lovejoy, my very good friend Dave Lovejoy, whose 200 TDI I did. I rang Roland, unfortunately he was busy, so I sent him an email. And I was thinking timing, and timing on these, if it's not the Dizzy, you have to take the front cover off. And then if that's out, you can take the timing chain off. So you have to take off the tensioner. And then to turn the camshaft, you have to take off the rocker cover assembly, which is part of the head studs. So that's what I've done. So when I found it, as it turns out, I had the P's in the wrong place. So this P is for the crankshaft P, and there's another P hidden. It's about there. There it is. And it was like this. So when I built it, I did turn the engine over and I made sure, and I put the head on, I made sure that there wasn't any interference between the pistons and the valves. And I've turned it over on the start motor, and you can't hear anything. It is an interference engine, so valves can touch. But I didn't feel a thing. Nowhere, because I was very, very thorough in making sure I was just making sure. And it did make compression. There was some compression there, you could hear it. That I'm going to turn this so it's pointing in the right direction according to the good book. And we'll just double check that. To the top hole. To the top hole, so the P, the mark, is to the top hole. And the other P is over there somewhere. So, I now have timing chain and thing, and water pump and pulley and bottom pulley, and over there's the rocker cover assembly, and there's the front cover. I'm going to throw the timing chain back on, and then the rocker cover, the rocker assembly, torque everything down as it's meant to, turn it over, and see how that goes. Simple mistake. A big one. Because I thought I had that right. But hey, mistakes happen. I hope I haven't damaged anything. To God not. Because the pistons are a small fortune. And the head is a small fortune. But hopefully worth it. Anyway, I'm going to rebuild this. I may as well do a time lapse as I've started filming again. Bollocks. So, a few days has passed since I last spoke to the camera, partly because my GoPro let me down, and partly because it just it wasn't quite right. So what have I done? The rocker cover's been off 3 or 4 times. The last time was when I was turning the motor over, I had the rocker cover off, and I wasn't getting oil out the top of the rockers. And as it turns out, the rocker shaft, is only meant to be orientated in one way. And I only found this out yesterday. So I had to take it off for that, realign it. And then today, when I was throwing on, under here, there's like a plate. And there's a bolt that attaches the plate and locates it. As it turns out, that is a locating dowel bolt to make sure that the rod is in the right place. I didn't know that, but anyway, that was fine. Done that, I've lashed everything, and I had it cough. I was turning it over and it coughed. Fantastic, right. But it only coughed when I poured petrol through the carb. Right, fuel delivery issue. No problem. Stripped off the bowl, look at that, everything was fine. Blew through the jet, everything was fine from there. But still, I wasn't getting any fuel coming out, and there wasn't a lot of suction. When I was turning the engine over, like the piston wasn't moving, or anything like that wasn't happening. I was like, what the hell's going on? So I thought, well, you know what, bugger it, I'll strip it off. So I took it off at lunchtime yesterday, stripped it down, cleaned it up a bit, put new shaft in, the bushes in it, the bearings in here are fine, new plate, new screws, new jet on the bottom, new needle valve, and just went through it, put it back on, wouldn't start. After you spent so long on a project like this, and it doesn't start, you start wondering, what the hell have I done? Why have I done this? Anyway, did the petrol thing again, threw some more petrol down it, and it coughed. Right, perfect, I'll get the camera. And then the GoPro stopped working. It turned on, it said it was recording, and then all of a sudden it just shut off. Wouldn't turn back on for ages. And this is the first time it's turned back on, so let's see how this goes. Anyway, as it turns out, I noticed something leaking down here. What the hell's that? It turns out it was petrol. And because of this ACR inlet manifold for the HS6, where it bolts onto, I'll see if I can show you. That's a big camera. Anyway, where it bolts on from, this is the inlet manifold here, and this is the hot bulb that's on the standard exhaust manifold. It was fouling, and you can see the blue dicam that I've been using, and I've had to file away with the Dynafile at both the top of the exhaust and the underside of the inlet manifold. Blue dicam it, try and fit it, see where it's catching, file it down, and it took me about 3 hours yesterday because I don't know the thickness of the underside of the inlet manifold, and I know the plate that I've fitted isn't terribly thick. I welded on that steel plate onto the cast, and it seems to be holding for now. The joint is blowing, but that's fine. But I haven't ran it. Ever since I've practically rebuilt it, put the water pump back on, rebuilt the front end. I did check the timing as well. I had the front cover off, check the timing. And I'm going to hit the button. Should we do it? Should we give it a go? I have no idea what's going to happen, because it's not ran. Oh, there's good compression as well. Let's turn fuel pumps on, put some ignition on. Bugger it. Let's hit the button. Okay, that's good. I'm going to put the camera down. Hang on. Put the camera down on the stand. What can you see? Let's put you about there. That'll do. So I can give it a little bit of choke. Well, it runs. Really perfect. Oh, thank goodness for that. That's the longest it's ran. It's first fight of life, really. Sounds okay. It's a wasp. Well, let's get some cooling in it. Let's rebuild the cooling system. And then I can run it for a bit longer and have a look at the timing, because the timing is nowhere near right. But hey, it ran. Oh, thank goodness for that. Right, rebuild. Whee. So the cooling system is now all back in, plumbed up. Just had it running, and I found, you know, saying there was an exhaust leak. Well, I found it. There we go. So can you see that weld on the back there? You see how it's open now. Obviously, when it's cold, it's bloody shut. So what I've got to do now is let that cool off, because it's quite warm. Take it off, and luckily where that is it's nowhere near the inlet manifold, so I can grind that back, and I can run hopefully a decent weld across it. So I'm gonna have a cup of tea, and maybe some bacon and eggs, and let him cool down a touch. I'm very pleased, very happy, and hopefully we can get this sorted. I've set the timing. It takes over at 650 RPM with the vacuum disconnected at 6 degrees, which is good. We like that. That's the first time I've ever been able to get it right down to 650 RPM. So I think it wasn't. I had the same problem on the other engine, but it wasn't as pronounced as what it is on this engine. But let's say we'll pull off the. I'll let that cool off, pull it off, and then we'll have a go at welding it, shall we? I'm probably going to split this into 2 pieces now, so this is probably in the second episode. But now it's time for a cup of tea. See you in a sec. Oi! The compressor's stopped. Show you what I've been doing. So I've re-welded the exhaust manifold along here, across the back, and down here. I linched it back as much as I dared with the angle grinder. And then when I came to fit the inlet manifold, obviously it was catching. So I've see underneath here, it's freshly dicumed, but you can see how smooth it is from me running over with the Dynafile, wherever she is. And finally, what I've been doing is making sure when you pop it on, and I'll try and show you one-handed. So what happens is it hits down here, under here, before the bottom end seals up. So what I've done now is I've fitted it, and then when you push down, it pushes the. I've waited for the top end to come away, so as it dips down, obviously it's pulling the top end away. So I've waited for that to happen, and that looks like it's probably just starting to happen now. So I'm going to throw in these metal spacers again, crush spacers, and see what happens from there. Hopefully it'll run alright. Who knows with this car? Oh, I rang up a couple of companies to see how soon they could do a full exhaust system from the head all the way back, full stainless steel exhaust system. One of the companies I rang said he couldn't fit me in until after Christmas, and it's late May. Bloody hell. That's good, because he's busy. That's very good. A couple of other companies, they haven't got back to me yet, so I'm finishing this up. I'd like to get an MOT in next week, but who knows? Who bloody knows? Anyway, I'll get on, because stop guessing. Whew. So the car's back together in one vague piece. I think I've got everything on it. So inlet manifold's back on, air filter system's back on. Obviously the water's full. Check the timing again. Timing's mint. I've never had it run so smoothly. Its MOT's booked for Wednesday next week, which is cutting it fine because I want to go away in it Thursday. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull it out the workshop. I'll take it for a quick spin around the fields, because it hasn't had any load on it yet. It needs load to work the piston rings into the walls and what have you. So I'll do that, and then in the next episode I'll be bringing the series in, because the series is broken down. But I also need to tidy up around here because there is crap everywhere. And yes, I've been using an ammo box and a piece of I-beam, H-beam, so I can reach, because I'm not that tall. But I hope you enjoyed it. This has been a very stressful trip the last week or so for me, having spent quite a lot of money on this. But it sounds good at the moment, which is a great thing for me. And hopefully, I've got to do some welding on it. The front cross member has a hole in it, so I've got to do some welding in it before the MOT. But I'll film that as well. That'll probably just be a short episode. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Sorry I've droned on for ages. Hopefully the 90 will be okay. I hope so, because I love it and I miss it so much. But such is life. I've got to get on with it. I'll order the bits that I need, so I'll go to Baymac for the grommets that need to go in here properly. I'll get the proper ones, and I'll probably try and get some heater tubes, because these heater tubes, I've never liked these. This one is the proper tube, this one isn't, so I need to get the proper one. The back two are fine, but it just needs fettling, because it can't sit in there, which bugs me. But we'll get there. Rome wasn't built in a day. And my de-icer, I fitted this a number of years ago. I used to fill it with water, and my washer pump is next to it. My washer pump, that used to be the thing just to get it through an MOT, but now I have a 5 litre can somewhere else. So if that's in, it's quite a nice, it's one of the older ones, which fairly period for this. Anyway, I digress. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe out there. Consider subscribing and doing all that, and tell your friends and what have you. And yeah, if you've got any ideas of what you want me to do or things you'd like to see, particularly if I'm in Saudi Arabia, because I'm not going to be in England for much longer, unfortunately. Oh, t-shirt. Have a t-shirt? I'm probably going to start selling these. I won't make much money, if any, because it's not worth it for... I don't like that, really. If it happens, it happens. I've just had these ones embroidered. These are really nice. My other ones that I've had for a year, they've lasted pretty well. I'm quite surprised at how well they've lasted. If you fancy a t-shirt, if you think I should start selling them for whatever, let me know down below in the comments. I have a jumper as well. The jumpers are really good, but I don't really use them in Saudi Arabia. I only use them here. But yeah, I'll probably get some other designs out, FJs and 90s and series and Fergies and all that sort of good stuff. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, have fun, take care, bye now.